My son's wife posted a selfie in an infinity pool overlooking the Pacific Ocean. The caption said, "Paradise found. Just us three." She was right about the number. They took their biological son. They took 7 suitcases. But they left my 7-year-old adopted granddaughter alone in a locked house with a bag of uncooked rice, a gallon of tap water, and a handwritten note that said, "Stay quiet or they'll send you back." They assumed I was just a retired old man who watches the Weather Channel and falls asleep in his recliner by 8. They forgot that before I was a grandfather, I was a wildland fire investigator for the U.S. Forest Service. I have walked into burning buildings. I have tracked arsonists through charred forests. And I have never, not once, failed to find what I was looking for. Before I tell you how I showed up at their 5-star resort and turned their tropical vacation into a crime scene, tell me where you are watching from in the comments. Hit like and subscribe if you believe every child deserves a seat at the table, not just the ones who share your blood. The phone rang at 1:47 in the morning. When you spend 30 years responding to wildfire calls in the middle of the night, your body never fully unlearns the reflex. I was sitting upright before my eyes were open. The screen said Iris, my granddaughter. She was 7 years old. And 7-year-olds do not call at 1:47 in the morning unless something is very wrong. Grandpa. Her voice was so small it sounded like it was coming from inside a jar. I am scared. There is a sound in the wall and it is really dark and Biscuit will not stop barking. Biscuit was their golden retriever. Iris loved that dog more than anything in the world because Biscuit never treated her like she was different. Where is your daddy, sweetheart? Where is Tanya? Nobody is here, Grandpa. They left. The note says they went to a camp for Sawyer's soccer team. But I looked outside and both cars are gone and the mailbox is full, and it has been 2 days. 2 days. I felt my pulse shift into a rhythm I had not felt since I retired. It was the same heartbeat I got standing at the edge of a crown fire, calculating whether I had seconds or minutes. Are the lights on, Iris? No, the switches do not work. I tried them all. I have been using the flashlight on Mommy's old phone, the one she left in the junk drawer. But it keeps dying because I cannot find the charger. I was already pulling on my jeans. I grabbed my truck keys from the hook by the door. I grabbed the flashlight from the shelf, and then I opened the fireproof box on my closet floor and took out the document folder I kept there. Birth certificates, adoption papers, the deed to my house. I did not know why I grabbed them. Call it instinct. Stay in your room, baby. Lock the door. I am coming. Do not open it for anyone except me. The drive from my house in Knoxville to Jarrett's subdivision outside Nashville was 2 hours and 40 minutes. I made it in under 2. My F-150 ate the miles on I-40 like it was running from something too. The whole way I kept the line open. Iris fell asleep around mile 60. I could hear her breathing, shallow and quick like a puppy having a bad dream. I could hear Biscuit whimpering beside her. When I pulled into their cul-de-sac, the house was a black hole. Every house on the street had porch lights, motion sensors, warm glowing windows. Their house was dead. The lawn had not been mowed. The garbage cans were still at the curb from collection day, which was 4 days ago. I checked the driveway, empty. Both vehicles gone. I used the spare key Jarrett did not know I had. I had it made 2 years ago after Tanya changed the locks and forgot to tell me. I let myself in and the smell hit me first. It was stale air and dog waste and something sweet and rotten underneath it all. The smell of a house where life had been suspended. I found the breaker panel in the garage. Every switch was flipped to off, all of them. They had killed the power deliberately. In October in Tennessee, where the nights drop into the 40s, they had left a child with no heat, no light, no way to cook food, and a dog that needed to be fed. I flipped the breakers. The house hummed back to life. The refrigerator started clicking. The AC unit groaned. I walked to the kitchen. That is where I found the note. It was taped to the pantry door with a piece of painter's tape. The handwriting was Tanya's, the loopy cursive she used for her Instagram captions. Iris, we are taking Sawyer to soccer camp in California. It was last minute. Do not go outside. If the neighbors see you alone, they will call the police, and you will be sent back to the group home. Remember what I told you about girls who get sent back. Nobody picks them twice. There is rice in the cabinet. Boil it on the stove. Be good. We will be back in 10 days. Do not answer the door for anyone." I read it twice. The second time my hands were shaking so bad the paper rattled. I looked at the pantry door. It had a sliding bolt lock installed on the outside, the kind you buy at a hardware store for a garden shed. They had locked the pantry from the outside with a padlock. I pulled on it. Solid. I went to the garage and came back with a pry bar. One hit and the hasp ripped out of the drywall. I opened the pantry. It was fully stocked. Cereal, canned soup, peanut butter, crackers, juice boxes, granola bars. Everything a child could need was 6 inches behind a locked door. On the counter sat a 10-pound bag of dry rice, uncooked. Iris was 7. She did not know how to boil water, and even if she did, the stove required the breakers to be on for the electricnician, and they had shut off the power. They did not just leave her. They engineered her suffering. They made it precise. I walked upstairs. Iris was asleep in her closet with Biscuit curled around her like a protective wall. She was wearing the same pajamas she must have been wearing when they left. They were stained and wrinkled. Her hair was matted. She was clutching a stuffed rabbit I had given her the Christmas after the adoption was finalized. I lifted her out. She weighed almost nothing. She felt hollow like a pepper lantern. Biscuit followed us, tail between his legs, looking up at me with desperate, grateful eyes. I took her to my truck. I wrapped her in the emergency blanket I keep in the toolbox. I buckled her in. I loaded Biscuit in the back seat. Then I went back inside one more time. I took the note off the pantry. I took photos of the padlock, the breaker panel, the empty dog bowl crusted with dried food, the bag of uncooked rice. I opened the refrigerator. Inside was a sheet cake decorated with palm trees and the words Aloha Slater family. They had ordered a custom cake for their vacation and left it in the fridge behind a door their daughter could open but a pantry she could not reach. I drove us home. Iris woke up once during the drive. "Grandpa," she said, "am I in trouble?" "No, baby, you are not in trouble. You are never going to be in trouble again." When we got home, I made her scrambled eggs and toast with butter and strawberry jam. She ate 3 plates. 3. She ate like she was afraid the food would disappear. Biscuit ate a whole can of tuna and drank an entire mixing bowl of water. I watched them eat and I made a decision with the same certainty I used to feel when I called in an air tanker drop on a fire line. There is no going back. You commit and you hold the line. I put Iris to bed in the guest room. I tucked the blanket around her chin. Biscuit jumped up and settled beside her. She looked at me with those dark brown eyes. "Grandpa, am I expensive?" The word hit me like a falling beam. Expensive? Why would you ask me that, sweetheart? Because Tanya says I cost too much. She says Sawyer's soccer gear and his tutors and his braces are already a lot, and my adoption fees were the reason they cannot go on family trips together. She says every time I eat a snack I am taking money from Sawyer's college fund. I sat on the edge of the bed. I took her hand. "Iris, I have spent my career calculating the cost of things. I know what a helicopter costs per hour. I know what a tanker of retardant costs per drop, and I know what a human life is worth. You are not a line item in someone's budget. You are a child. Your job is to eat when you are hungry and sleep when you are tired and laugh as loud as you want. You do not owe anyone an apology for existing. Do you understand me?" She nodded, but I could tell she did not fully believe me. That would take time and proof. After she fell asleep, I went to my study. I opened my laptop and started digging. Jarrett was not at a soccer camp. Sawyer played baseball, not soccer. I checked Tanya's social media. She had posted from her private account, the one she thought I could not see. But I had created a fake profile months ago because something about her behavior had been bothering me for a year. The posts were all there, a beachfront suite at a resort in Maui. Jarrett in board shorts holding a Mai Tai, Sawyer on a surfboard with an instructor, Tanya in a white bikini doing yoga on a balcony overlooking the ocean. The hashtags made me sick. Blessed fam life, our big first. Maui magic. For 3, I dug deeper. I found the booking confirmation in Jarrett's email. He had never changed his password since I helped him set up his account 15 years ago. The resort was the Grand Wailea in Maui. 12 nights, oceanfront suite. The total was $28,000. They had paid with a wire transfer from a savings account I did not recognize. Then I found the source of the wire. It was the education trust I had set up for both grandchildren when my wife Ruthie passed away 4 years ago. She had left $60,000 in life insurance. I put every cent into a trust split equally between Sawyer and Iris, managed by me as trustee. Jarrett was listed as a secondary signer for emergencies only. He had withdrawn $30,000 6 weeks ago. The withdrawal form listed the reason as emergency dental surgery for Iris. There was no surgery. Iris had perfect teeth. He had forged the purpose and used his signing authority to drain half the fund, half of his dead mother's legacy, stolen to pay for a vacation that excluded the very child the money was meant to protect. I called my lawyer, a woman named Josephine Park. Jo had handled Ruthie's estate. She was not a warm person. She was a weapon. She answered on the first ring even though it was past midnight. "Cal," she said, "I had a feeling you would be calling soon." I told her everything. The house, the note, the padlock, the trust fund, the resort. She was quiet for 10 seconds. Then she said, "File everything. Criminal referral to the DA for child endangerment and abandonment. Fraud complaint to the bank for the trust withdrawal. Emergency petition for temporary custody. I will have the paperwork ready by morning." "And then what?" I asked. "Then you go get your granddaughter's money back, and you make sure those two never touch another child again." I booked a flight to Maui at 5 a.m., one way. I left Iris with my neighbor Dorothy, a retired school principal who had raised 4 children of her own and fostered 11 more. Dorothy took one look at Iris and one look at me and said, "Go, I have her, bring hell." I landed in Kahului at 2 p.m. local time. The heat hit me the moment I stepped off the plane, but I was used to heat. I had fought fires in temperatures that would melt the soles off your boots. This was nothing. I rented a Jeep and drove to the Grand Wailea. The resort was everything you would expect from a place that charges $1,000 a night. Waterfalls in the lobby, orchids on every surface, staff who smiled like they were contractually obligated to be happy. I walked through the main entrance in my work boots and flannel shirt, and every head turned. I did not belong here. I was not supposed to be here. That was exactly the point. I found them at the pool. It was not difficult. Tanya's voice carried across the water like a bullhorn. She was lounging on a cabana day bed, holding her phone on a selfie stick, narrating her life to an audience of strangers. "You guys, this resort is absolutely unreal. The spa here uses volcanic clay, and I swear my skin has never looked this good. If you are thinking about booking, use my code TANISLAS for 10% off your first treatment." Jarrett was floating in the pool on an inflatable shaped like a flamingo. He had a drink in his hand and his eyes were closed. He looked like a man without a single care in the world. Sawyer was at the swim-up bar eating a plate of nachos, staring at his phone. I walked to the edge of the pool. My shadow fell across the water and darkened the flamingo. Jarrett opened one eye, then both eyes. Then he fell off the float. "Dad," he gasped, scrambling to stand in the shallow end. His drink went into the water. The cocktail spread like a blood stain. "What are you doing here?" I did not answer him. I reached into my back pocket and pulled out the note, the one Tanya had written. I had sealed it in a Ziploc bag to preserve it. I held it up so he could read it through the plastic. The color drained from his face. He looked like a man watching his house burn down, which in a way he was. Tanya noticed the commotion. She lowered her selfie stick. Her expression went through 4 stages in 2 seconds. Confusion, recognition, fear, and then the thing that always came last with her, performance. "Oh my God, Cal." She stood up, wrapping a silk sarong around her waist, walking toward me with her arms open like she was greeting a long-lost relative. "What a surprise. We were just talking about you." "Jarrett, why did you not tell me your father was visiting?" "Sit down, Tanya." I said it with the same voice I used to use when I was directing a crew to cut a fire break and the wind was shifting. It was not a request. She sat. I pulled a chair from the nearest table and placed it in front of them. I sat down. I put the Ziploc bag on the table between us. "I found Iris," I said, "alone in the dark, with no power, no food she could eat, and a padlocked pantry. Your dog was starving. Your daughter was sleeping in a closet because she was afraid of the sounds the house makes at night. She called me at 2 in the morning begging for water. She has been wearing the same pajamas for 3 days. She is 7 years old. Jarrett climbed out of the pool. Water dripped onto the stone deck. He grabbed a towel and would not look at me. Dad, it is not what it looks like. Tanya hired a babysitter. She was supposed to check in every day. Something must have gone wrong. I turned to Tanya. What is the babysitter's name? Tanya blinked. She looked at Jarrett. She looked at her phone. She opened her mouth and nothing came out. There is no babysitter, I said. There never was. You planned this 6 weeks ago. You drained $30,000 from Iris's education trust to pay for this trip. You forged the withdrawal as emergency dental surgery. Then you turned off the power in your house, locked the food behind a bolt, left a bag of dry rice on the counter, and told a 7-year-old that if she went outside, she would be sent back to foster care. I looked at both of them. You weaponized her worst fear to keep her invisible. The pool area had gone quiet. Families on nearby loungers were staring. A woman with 2 young daughters pulled them closer. A man in a resort polo shirt was speaking into a walkie-talkie. Tanya shifted tactics. She always did. She was a chameleon built for survival. Cal, you are making a scene. She lowered her voice to a theatrical whisper. Can we please discuss this privately? You are embarrassing the family. I leaned forward. The family? You mean the family that only has 3 members? The family that leaves its youngest in the dark like a piece of furniture you did not want to move. Jarrett put his hands up. Dad, please. I will fix it. We will go home. We will make it right. Just do not do anything crazy. I stood up. It is already done, Jarrett. I filed for emergency custody this morning. The DA in Davidson County has the photos. The bank has the fraud complaint. And my lawyer has the trust withdrawal records with your signature on a form that says emergency dental surgery for a girl with perfect teeth. Jarrett's legs gave out. He sat on the edge of a lounger, his head in his hands. He was shaking. Tanya was shaking. She was calculating. I could see it in her eyes, the rapid blinking, the slight tilt of the head. She was running scenarios, looking for an angle. You will never prove any of this, she said. Her voice had gone cold. Iris is a liar. She makes things up for attention. She has attachment disorder. Our therapist said she fabricates stories to manipulate adults. You are being played by a 7-year-old, Cal. I pulled out my phone. I opened the photo gallery. I showed her the padlock on the pantry, the breaker panel, the bag of rice, the note in her handwriting, the custom cake in the fridge that said Aloha Slater family, while her daughter ate nothing for 3 days. The therapist can explain the padlock, I said. Tanya lunged for my phone. I pulled it back. She stumbled forward and knocked over the table. The Ziploc bag with the note slid across the wet stone. A resort security guard was walking toward us now, accompanied by the manager. Sir, is everything all right here? The manager asked. No, I said, it is not, but it will be. I turned to Jarrett one last time. When you get home, your house will be empty. Iris is with me. Biscuit is with me. And your mother's money is frozen pending a criminal investigation. You spent Ruthie's life insurance on a vacation that excluded her granddaughter. If she were alive, she would not just be angry, she would be broken. Jarrett looked up at me. His eyes were red and swollen. He opened his mouth. Mom would understand, he whispered. She always said family is flexible. She would have forgiven me. Your mother, I said, my voice cracking for the first time, is the one who insisted we add Iris to the trust. She held that baby the day the adoption was finalized and said, this one is mine now. She would not forgive you, Jarrett. She would disown you, and she would be right. I left them at the pool. I did not look back. I walked through the lobby past the orchids and the waterfalls and the smiling staff. I got in the Jeep. I drove to the airport. I flew home. Iris was sitting on Dorothy's porch when I pulled into the driveway. Biscuit was at her feet. She was wearing new clothes that Dorothy had bought her, a yellow sundress with daisies on it. Her hair was brushed and pulled back with a ribbon. Grandpa, she said, running to me. Did you find them? I found them, I said, lifting her up. She was still too light, still that paper lantern feeling. But she was clean and fed and safe. Are they mad at me? I carried her inside. I set her on the kitchen counter the way I used to set Jarrett on the counter when he was small, back when he was still a boy I recognized. Iris, nobody is mad at you. Not now, not ever. You did nothing wrong, but the note said to be good. You were good, I said. You survived. That takes more courage than anything your daddy or Tanya have ever done. Over the next 6 weeks, the system did what the system does. Slowly, painfully, but it moved. Josephine filed the emergency custody petition, and the judge granted it the same day after reviewing the photos and the note. Jared and Tanya flew home from Maui to find the locks changed, a court order on the kitchen table, and 2 detectives waiting in the driveway. Tanya tried to fight. She hired a lawyer from her Instagram ad revenue. She posted a 40-minute video on YouTube calling me a controlling, abusive father-in-law who had stolen her children. She cried on camera. She showed the resort photos and claimed Iris had been with a licensed caregiver the entire time. But she could not explain the padlock. She could not explain the breaker panel. She could not explain the handwritten note in her own loopy cursive. And she definitely could not explain why a 7-year-old called her grandfather at 2 in the morning begging for water if a babysitter was supposedly checking in every day. The criminal trial lasted 3 days. The DA played the security footage from the home system that Tanya forgot I had access to. It showed her installing the padlock on the pantry at 6 p.m. on the evening they left. It showed Jarrett carrying the suitcases to the car while Iris stood at the top of the stairs in her pajamas, watching. It showed Tanya walking to the breaker panel and flipping every switch to off. The lights went out, Iris screamed, and Tanya walked out the front door without looking back. The jury deliberated for 40 minutes. Guilty on all counts: child abandonment, child endangerment, fraud, identity theft for the trust fund withdrawal. Jarrett got 8 years federal. Tanya got 12 because the prosecutor proved she was the architect of the scheme and had a pattern of financial manipulation dating back years. The judge looked at me when it was over. She was a woman about my age with sharp eyes and reading glasses perched on her nose. "Mr. Whitmore," she said, "the court grants you full and permanent custody of Iris Slater and Sawyer Slater. Parental rights are terminated effective immediately, Sawyer." I had fought for him too. Jarrett's lawyer argued that Sawyer was the biological child and should stay with his maternal grandmother. But Sawyer had testified. He sat in that witness chair, 10 years old, wearing a clip-on tie, and told the judge what his mother had said to him the night before they left for Maui. She told me Iris was not really my sister. She said Iris was a project, like a foster dog that you try out before you decide if you want to keep it. She said if I told anyone we left her, she would take away my PlayStation and my birthday party, and I would be grounded for the rest of 5th grade. She said I had to choose, my sister or my stuff. I chose my stuff, and I hate myself for it. The courtroom was silent after that. Sawyer's grandmother withdrew her petition. The judge awarded me both children. That was 8 months ago. We live in my house in Knoxville now. The house I built with Ruthie 30 years ago. The floors creak. The roof needs new shingles. The backyard slopes down to a creek where the kids throw rocks after school. Iris checks the pantry every morning. She opens the door, looks at the shelves, touches the cereal boxes, and closes it again. She does not take anything. She just checks. Her therapist says it is a grounding ritual. She is teaching herself the food will still be there, that nobody has locked it, that she is allowed. Sawyer mows the lawn on Saturdays. He does not ask for money. He does not He does it because he saw me do it and wanted to help. He is unlearning the entitlement his mother programmed into him, one chore at a time. Last week he made his sister a peanut butter sandwich without being asked. He cut off the crusts because he remembered she does not like them. It was the smallest gesture and the biggest victory. Biscuit sleeps between them every night. He has gained 12 pounds. He looks like a different dog. A letter arrived last month. Plain white envelope. Federal Correctional Return Address. Jarrett's handwriting. I opened it at the kitchen table after the kids were in bed. It was 2 pages of complaints. The food is terrible. His cellmate snores. Tanya filed for divorce and is blaming everything on him. He found religion and believes God wants me to forgive him. He needs money for the commissary. He wants me to appeal the case. He wants to talk to Sawyer on the phone. He did not ask about Iris. Not once. Not a single word about the girl he left in the dark. I read the letter one time, then I walked to the fireplace. I struck a match. I held the corner of the paper to the flame and watched it catch. The fire ate his words the same way it eats dead brush on a forest floor. It was not destruction. It was clearing. It was making room for new growth. People say blood is thicker than water. They say you cannot turn your back on family. They say forgiveness is the only path to peace. Those people have never found a 7-year-old in a closet clutching a stuffed rabbit in the dark. Those people have never read a note that tells a child she is too expensive to love. Family is not about who shares your last name. It is about who shows up at 2 in the morning. It is about who checks the pantry to make sure the door is still open. It is about a 10-year-old boy cutting the crusts off a sandwich because he remembered. I am Cal Whitmore. I am 67 years old. I am a retired fire investigator. And for the first time in my life, I am not fighting a fire someone else started. I am building something from the ground up. And it is warm in here, and the pantry is full, and nobody is ever going to lock it again.